Does this sound like you? You bought into that IPO they told you was a good investment, and now you're down 20, 30, maybe even 40%. You try to buy the stocks they talk about in groups or on social media.
You've even taken a chance on the ones your advisor sends you via email.
But after 2 years, that IPO, that stock is still down.
There's a clear difference between investing and making a good investment decision. So if you're stuck, what you need to do is learn how to invest the right way.
In our Learn Level 2 program, we teach you how to build a $1 million investment portfolio. To make money investing, you need to know which stocks are right for your investment strategy, know when is the right time to buy and sell, and know how to build the right portfolio for your investment style. This program will help you invest meaningfully while making money. When you sign up, you'll get monthly guidance on how to invest and make money while doing it. You'll have a community of investors on the same journey as you to support you, and you'll have resources to help you stay on track. Join our 2026 cohort so you can get back on track with your financial goals.
All right, welcome to another CEO series here on Learn, Grow, Invest. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Deanall Barnes, Managing Director of Atlantic Hardware. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jermaine. Thank you very much for your investing community. Thank you very much to you and the McDonald family for helping to divulge financial information in a very simple way where, as we would say colloquially, the common man can understand. And by so doing, interest in the stock exchange and companies in general improve, which all goes well for the country. So thank you and your team.
You said it perfectly, right? That's our plan. Our plan is to make the level of investors raise, and so that we have an overall better market. Companies perform better, investors know what to ask for, and so everything works together. So that's thank you for that. So
You're welcome, sir.
you've done a few interviews before, so I won't do the usual background and going into that. So I'll just go straight to it. If somebody was watching this video and it's the first time they're hearing about Atlantic, how would you describe Atlantic?
Atlantic is a very established national distributor of building materials and a wide range of products, to include now agri-products, the veterinary products, the pesticides, the herbicides, the seeds, the shovels, the forks, feeds, fertilizers, and we're looking to add every single day products that actually make sense, that the average farmer needs, the average household actually needs, because I still believe in the philosophy of eat what we grow, grow what we eat. And as such, you would have realized that we ventured into this of agro products. But otherwise from that is a company, despite being very much established in the national distribution network, we're a growing company. As the data would have shown, that since we bought the business roughly 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, the annual sales were somewhat in the region of about 1.4 billion, and at our 6 months assessment this year would have already been 1.4 billion, which shows to a large extent that the company is growing both organically and inorganically. So clearly, we believe that there's a significant amount, well, the data suggests as well that there's a significant amount of demand for just houses in Jamaica. And based on the range of products that we carry, the PVC, the plumbing, the accessories, the toilets, etc., those will be in demand. We have not seen such a significant activity in the construction industry over the last 2-3 years, but our understanding from what's been said by Prime Minister and other senior persons in government that the intention is to build as much homes as possible. So we're sticking close to that and we're preparing ourselves. We have gone out, we have established international supplier network, we have strengthened our international supplier network, we have widened the supplier base, we have engaged other local national distributors to ensure that we minimize stock out issues in case that we're out of stock of an item. We have the relationship with other national distributors. So we are preparing the company to grow and continue to grow. So from where I say, I believe a bet in Atlantic is a very safe bet for the medium to long term.
All right, thank you. I mean, when you're describing it, I'm like, maybe hardware is not even the best name for you in a few years as you build out those product lines and all the things that you could potentially go into. What
That's
would
correct.
you say? Yeah.
What we're trying to do, and we haven't finalized as yet, admittedly, is to use the brand Atlantic, but there are other companies that uses the name Atlantic in their company. There is Atlantic Electrical, I believe. So there's a discussion ongoing because ideally we'd like to use Atlantic, and Atlantic speaks of agro as well as hardware, because to say we're a hardware, and it's something that I'm glad I have the opportunity to explain. When the average investor looks and they see Atlantic Hardware, they believe it's a standalone retail store. We're not. We're a national distributor who sells, I estimate, to somewhere between 300 to 400 hardware stores throughout the length and breadth of this country. So we distribute to hardware stores. So the name itself is not a true reflection of the length and breadth of exactly what we do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So great. Thank you for that. So what would you, so I mean, you did a recent acquisition, so I'll get to that in a minute, but
yes,
describe to us your role as managing director, right? Across the different things that you do, what do you see as your primary role for the business?
Initially, is to settle the business. I mean, post-acquisition. As most persons are aware, we're at an Ashenine Road location in 3 different locations on Ashland Road. So we had to get the operational side sorted out. So we moved to Marcus Garvey Drive, consolidated under roughly 48,000 square feet of covered property, get that out of the way, have a new ERP system where we're able to track and to plan in a better way. And we also had to dispose of roughly about 93, 94 containers, if memory serves well, whilst at the same time distributing. And we managed to do that. So that was phase 1. So to manage the entire process, then we actually had to build out the team. So we're not there yet. So we have to build out a first-class team in terms of sales, because ultimately the nucleus of the business is sales. I use my prior experience elsewhere in terms of heading a sales organization for a much bigger company for a number of years. I use that along with advice that we would have received from the board and instructions and the existing team to build out a super sales structure. So the manifestation will eventually be seen in terms of our numbers, all things being well. But importantly is to ensure that the operation side, the sales side, the finance side, the procurement side, all these areas are fully functional and at the required level. Importantly as well, we look at strategic, my team and I look at strategic, what to do next, where do we see ourselves, and to position Atlantic in such a way where whatever is to happen in 2-3 years' time, we are not at the table in 2-3 years' time, but we are preparing ourselves so that at the appointed time, we're able to do so. So I would say just the regular day-to-day operational issues, but importantly, strategy.
Okay. So what would you say based on just, I mean, you've been listed for almost 2 years. What do you say you'd think that people misunderstand about the company the most? Like the thing that you find that you have to maybe explain a lot, or something that people just don't understand about what it is you're doing as Atlantic?
Okay, so in the first place, we did average buyout. The average investor in Jamaica they don't understand the term leverage buyout, which simply means that the initial owners put some money in, but borrowed some money to pay for it. So initially, we were heavily burdened with loan. We bring that loan balance down to under 600 million within 2 years by disposing of some asset. And also this year, successfully, we have been fortunate enough to refinance and to save roughly 4.5% in interest costs and the existing amount of debt at that point in time. So in terms of just structuring the business, people did not understand the structure. And who are they have a deep appreciation of who are the related parties. So now they realize, firstly, that it's just not a standalone hardware, it's a national distributor, it's not a retail store. And I think persons are now appreciating the financing structure of the business. And importantly, I think over the last 12 months, they have grown to understand the business a little more. Initially, they just saw us as just a hardware store, a little hardware store. Now they have a deeper appreciation what we are and where we intend and what we intend to do now in the short term and in the medium term. So I think the interviews that my team and I have done, coupled with the fact that there are more information in the domain now by virtue of us going public, because we have to publish quarterly, we have to give an explanation of the numbers. So people are having a more intimate appreciation of this business. And remember, when we went public in last year, up to December, I don't believe any other company went public. Last year was just a very rough year in terms of going public. And we decided to go because clearly we wanted to reduce our interest burden and clearly want to have the average investor have a greater participation in our business, a local company built by the Funk family, and is one that we want to continue to grow and to develop. So it has been a process. We're still part of it. Up to 1 hour ago, I saw one of our shareholders and he said to me, "Sir, think you guys are doing a reasonably good job, but what I would love to you guys to do is to do more marketing, let more persons be aware." So we have to take note of what our investors, our shareholders, our stakeholders are saying, and we're a company that listen. And once it makes commercial sense, then definitely we'll examine and see how best we can implement.
All right, awesome. I mean, so let me use that opportunity then to invite you, if you're so interested. We do quarterly earnings calls for some companies as a way for them to engage their shareholders. It's a simple process, and if you follow the US stock market, they do earnings calls all the time. You pretty much, after your quarterlies are published, you pretty much join me for a similar interview, and we just give the public an opportunity to understand the numbers deeper, and it serves as a quarterly touch point for your investors. So I think that's a great way if you're planning to increase marketing efforts. I think that's a great way to do it, because then at least the market is not going to make assumptions about your numbers quarterly.
That's
you have
correct.
the chance to speak to them directly. So, we can't talk about that otherwise, of course, but I thought
you are indeed correct, and we have taken note over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I should say, that it's very, very important to communicate with the market to let them understand what is there, because persons speculate, and when you have persons who speculate and wrongfully assume the data, or wrongfully analyze the data, I should say, and they are vloggers with significant amount of influence, then it could have an adverse impact on your company. Your market price is one thing. I mean, the selling price of your shares is one thing that affects the investing community, but also just the image of the company. So we have taken note, and prospectively, our approach will be different.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you about your most recent acquisition. It happened in February of this year. Tell us about what went into the acquisition. What have you seen in the last 6 months or so, and what is the expectation as to what that business can become as a part of, I guess for now we'll call it Atlantic Group.
Thank you. You're most kind. So we ventured in the agribusiness as has been reported, and we did so because we believe strategically it makes commercial sense. And why is that so? We distribute, as indicated before, to between 300 and 400 hardware stores right throughout the length and breadth of the country. And anyone that traverses the countryside know that right next to a hardware store is a farm store. Now, when we did the numbers, we were of the view that I think 32 of our customers already had farm stores, so it was a natural for us to sell them. But also, we realized that there were close to another 100 farm stores that were unserviced by Atlantic, the hardware by itself. So when we decided that we want to venture down the road, we can consolidate deliveries. So we're delivering to McDonald Hardware in Balaclava, but we're also delivering to Jones Farm Store, which is right next to McDonald Hardware. So from a logistics standpoint, it makes significant economic sense. And despite the lower margins when compared to the hardware store, the net contribution is positive. So for us, it was a relatively easy decision to make at that point in time. We're of the view that the agricultural sector will somewhat rebound, and we distribute some of the major inputs, as you know, the seeds, the pesticides, the herbicides, fertilizer, and for persons who do poultry farming as well as animal husbandry, I believe. Then there's also the opportunity for us to sell them to feeds. So we're very positive about it. Fact is, as reported nationally, we have a massive, massive drought situation. And the drought situation has impacted our farming community considerably. And so we have seen where you have some up months, some down months, but when we analyze the numbers, we realize that historically that's how it has performed. The market has performed. Despite that, though, we are still when we look at the numbers before acquiring versus where we are today, having acquired, we're still 20% above. So we're confident that the marketing strategy in terms of having a full-fledged sales organization that's dedicated to dealing with the agro side thus far, and let's thank God for that, has been quite positive.
Okay. So that integration process that is typically needing to take place when two businesses come together. How has that been going? Would you say you're fully integrated by now, or are you still working out some of those details?
No, we're fully integrated. Fortunate for us, the agri division is geographically located at the same place where the hardware is perhaps a few meters. So in terms of just labor management, it has been seamless. In terms of personnel, it has been seamless as well. We have appointed a manager to run that division who reports in to the senior leadership of the Atlantic Hardware and Atlantic Group, as you refer to it as, and the integration has been quite seamless, as you would know. not formally, but TGET is like a sister company, a big sister company. So in terms of working out the arrangements, it was not that difficult because despite being completely arm's length transaction, we were acutely aware how they operate and they are aware how we operate. So as such, we didn't have any major issue. You'd have seen an increase, just to digress or to continue on that point, you'd have seen an increase in our inventory. It is as a result primarily of the acquisition, and you would have seen an increase in our payables. It's again primarily as a result of the acquisition. As I've reported, between February and June, we would have done somewhere in the region of about 295 million, a little under 300 million in terms of sales from that side of the business.
Yes, I was actually just about to ask, where do you see? So let's say we're going into the future, right? 6 months from now, and you finish out the year, right? You're on track to have your pretty much your best year ever. What do you foresee in the next 6 months that business contributing to overall revenues? Maybe so. Let's say you do. Well, let me not do that. I was gonna say a number, but we'll wait and see. But let's say you do. What percentage would you say the agro business will take up in overall revenues, and how could that percentage increase maybe over the next 3 to 5 years?
All right, so I hope that you'll be kind enough to me not to allow me to answer the first question. We still trying to fully comprehend and appreciate. But if we just look on the average so far, since we have acquired, we expect to do somewhere in the region of about 250 million, because the latter part of the year we normally find a slowdown in activity. The summer part, the first 3 months, very, very active, and then there's some slowing off. So we are still very much optimistic. Now, we have acquired the National Procurement Commission certification, which will now allow us to participate in government projects via RAD and the different state agencies. So we expect to have some increase in activities, especially to those entities, now that we're able to participate in the bidding processes. And now that we're also known, because prior to that, most persons knew it as TGET Grants Agri Division. It's now right across the board because we participate in Denby and we had active participation. And I want to extend thank you to the Honorable Minister Floyd Green, who passed and came in, saw what we were doing. Quite impressed with what we have showcased, what we showcased it, and as such, we're confident that we will have greater participation, especially in government products. So we are eagerly anticipating the recovery program as relates to the hurricane recovery to actually start from the governmental standpoint. As you are acutely aware, NARA, I believe, was formed to a large extent to treat with issues related to the reconstruction effort, but up till now we haven't seen any major projects or any projects. I suspect perhaps by Q1 next year, and I have no idea of exactly the amount of funds that they intend to spend, but to the best of my knowledge, here is what, 6.3 or 6.5 US billion dollars, is over $1 trillion. That will be spent more than likely on CapEx projects, and we, Atlantic, will be there. We might not be at the top of the line, but I'm certain that we'll be close to. Importantly for us, though, is to build out the back office, which means personnel, because if we do not have the stock in place, then we will be able to participate. So we have re-engaged international suppliers right across the board, and we have also engaged new suppliers to ensure that we have adequate supply of agri products when the market requires same. So we really are very much optimistic about this side of our business. Pertaining to core hardware segment, the macroeconomics are quite clear. There is indeed some softening. And in the discussions that we have had with other major distributors, there seem to be a softening since June of this year, and it is reflected in the numbers that we have picked up. So we do not expect to have the level of activity that we witnessed in the first 6 months, in the last 6 months of the year. We expect to have some tapering off. Most of the activities in the first part of the year were associated with the ROOS program by, I think, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, as well as the Tourism Enhancement Funds program through the Ministry of Tourism, and then persons in the diaspora helping out. So it wasn't governmental as yet. So we're still awaiting the core governmental. So we're still awaiting the core governmental activities in terms of just the reconstruction effort. And until then, I believe the industry will be relatively lukewarm. But by virtue of us widening our product base and deepening our penetration in hotel construction and in some of the government projects, we believe that we will continue on our positive path. Undoubtedly, we will have a record year in terms of sales, because we're on that trajectory. At the end of this month, we'll be reasonably close or perhaps over. So we're very much positive about our growth prospect and our growth possibilities.
All right, sounds good. Which leads me to so here's the thing, and this is your first interview on our platform, so I say this very openly. I'll share it here as well. So I believe a growth company, if a junior market company lists, the first and primary objective is growth. All right, so I don't think you should be doing anything else as a company but focusing on growth. Sounds like that's what you're doing. The next thing that I typically talk about is this concept of dividends, right? Whether or not I think small companies should focus on it. Based on your accelerated growth, though, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't normally ask this early in a company's listing cycle, but if you do have that record year as you intend, talk to us about what. Let me ask it this way: what would need to be true for you to declare your first dividend as a listed company? And if you were to get to that point, what would that dividend look like based on your dividend policy?
Well, clearly you will appreciate that despite being the managing director, there are some things that are decided at the board level. We will have a board meeting sometime in September, and I believe there's another one scheduled for later on this year. That is something that I know that persons will bring to the table based on the construct of the board, as you would know, lumber depot as well as general accident. But to speak definitively, I am not able to speak definitively to a percentage or whether a dividend will be made. Absolutely, I know that it is likely that a question will be asked at the AGM, and I believe at that time a clear answer will be given.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can expect it at your AGM in a month, because shareholders.
That is indeed. It's a reasonable question, and it requires a clear answer. And you will appreciate that at this time I cannot preempt a discussion that will take place at the board level.
So, yeah, man, for sure. So I wasn't trying to do that, and that's why I asked it the way that I did, right? Like, what would need to be true? So, for example, more alluding to your dividend policy that would have been in your prospectus, that kind of thing. But I want to understand. I mean, you can make that, speak about it at your AGM, and then I'll just probably, update our audience after, because I see somebody asking, will the AGM be hybrid or in person only? I'm assuming you may be streaming it, right?
Yes, both.
Yes. Yeah, man. So then, I mean, we can at least get the answer we're looking for from that one, and then I'll just, share it on a video later on. All right. So
Reasonable.
my next question here is about, let's talk about this concept of managing risk for the business, right? So you're operating in two industries that, the agribusiness, for example, we live in a climate, for example, where we have, things like Hurricane Melissa. You mentioned it earlier. We're dealing with a drought now. Help me to understand the risk that you see. What would be reasonable, right? You may not want to share, certain risks that you see it at a certain level, but help me to understand what are some of the ways in which you try to mitigate the risk that your business may naturally face, right? So, for example, how do you treat with the fact that maybe some points of the year the business may be seasonal? How do you deal with things that may face us with being on an island, right? What are your general thoughts on that?
Okay. The nature of our business is like 98% or 99% credit. So we are indeed exposed to the credit risk or expected credit losses. As you would have seen, based on the reported numbers up to third quarter last year, we were doing pretty well. And but our internal computation of the expected credit losses were, let's say, not in congruence with that of our auditors, who are relatively new to the Jamaican market. They just came back. So we had a big fight about that in terms of just trying to arrive at what the expected credit losses were. We got a big hit. Unfortunately, bring our profit down to roughly 68 million. But it laid a foundation for us that prospectively, what we have done, and what we will continue to do, is to work with the construct that they gave us to have a clear idea or a better idea of what the ECL computation will be, so that we provide for it on a quarterly basis. Now, at the end of last year, what had happened was that the parishes that were hardest hit, we had issue collecting for more than one reasons. Number one, we couldn't get in contact with customers. Number two, most customers were really concerned about getting their basic home life back, getting their generators, getting all of that back up and running. So parts of Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, and parts of St. Anne, we were hit. Now, over time, what we have seen is that they have come back into business, became operational, and started paying down. So that was one of the reasons why we were heavily hit. So how we are accounting for it now, I do not expect us to have the significant variation in expected credit losses. But internally, what we have done, we have hired 2 additional persons whose primary task is to help with collections. And we have targeted sales strategy where specific customers, we try and offer cash discounts to try and minimize the credit risk that we have in both segments of the market, in our hardware segment as well as the agri segment. Fortunately for us, the average size of an order from agri is smaller than that of the hardware side. So although there's a risk, it's not as significant in our view as the hardware side. So those risks we can't the nature of our business as such that those risks will always be there. So we have to put in place measures to minimize. So we offer special cash discounts. That's one. Number two, what we have done is that we have bumped up the internal staff. We have increased the internal staff that deal with just collections on a daily basis. And we believe that we have seen early signs of positive movements, and is one that we're watching very carefully because, as you rightly has articulated, it's very, very important that we manage our, I would say, our second most important asset in terms of those receivables.
Yeah. All right. So I know we're a little bit, limited in terms of time. So we do have some social media questions, and I want those persons to get their questions answered. So I'll hold mine maybe for a later interview. The rest of mine. So the most resounding question when we asked on social media what would they want to know from you is the issue of the suspension and the potential loss of the tax break. Can you speak about that? And I know you referred to it on a recent podcast, but just give us
Yes.
give us some context. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's so unfortunate. I was telling someone recently that we at this time must have the record for the company that was suspended and returned to the market the fastest, almost boat like, because within 2 days we were back up and running. But what has happened has happened. What is important to us is that we're clear as relates to how we go forward. So we have already consulted our attorneys who are of the view that based on the principle of precedent, we should be okay. There shouldn't be anything that affects us. We shouldn't have such liability going forward because they're close to about 11 companies who have suffered such fate, but their financials up to last posting haven't reflected anything pertaining to tax liability. So they're of the view that it shouldn't be different. We have hired a tax consultant to look at the situation to get back to us as well. So as I had indicated elsewhere, I believe at the AGM, we'll have at that time the perspective of the tax person to give us a very clear view on what the situation is. Because just as our investing community is interested in this, we very much are interested to get this. I don't want to call it I don't want to use a proverbial phraseology, but we just want to be very clear at what our position is so that we can communicate and we can proceed accordingly. So the tax people looking at it now, and hopefully we'll get some positive news not long from now. I know the act, based on the initial reading, the amendment speaks specifically to not having the benefit. But, as I have articulated elsewhere, know that we have been exposed to this. It's something that requires, in my view, some deeper assessment because, if a company is late for a day in terms of providing, or 91 days to be more specific, then technically they are to be suspended. Why is it that if there are no structural issues as relates to the company, why would the investing community and shareholders suffer as a result of that? So is it that there has to be some amendments, some changes to how a company will be treated? I believe it has to be so. What I can say is that though the act is an amendment to the Income Tax Act, and the Parent Act speaks specifically to the jurisdiction of the minister. So regardless of what, I don't believe all hope lost anyway, and we are significantly exposed at this time. I await the advice of the tax specialist.
Okay, reasonable. So I think that what you said to make sense to me, at least, because when it was first raised and, I reached out to someone and they were telling me about it, I was like, I have not heard of any other company that's junior market that has been suspended, that has lost their tax break. And
But it's a reason.
Some have been suspended almost annually and we don't really say anything. So
yes,
reasonable. So the next question here is, persons were asking, for example, what would have led to the to the suspension initially, etc.? I think
I
you've
can,
kind of okay.
yeah, I
All
can
right, go ahead.
speak to it. I mean, clearly we initially had a very small accounting firm that was doing books, and we didn't want to change the firm going public. So we had to do what we had to do. We went public, and having gone public and have a deeper appreciation of the reporting requirements and XYZ, decision was taken that let's get a big four firm. And a big four firm that we engaged was out of the Jamaican market for a time. So they want, in my view, to ensure that as you would say colloquially, that everything was consistent with what they are signing off on. So they want to ensure that everything was copacetic. And by so doing, it was a little bit extended as relates to time, but we're in a better position now as a company. We have absolute reliance on our numbers. So it is it was the suspicion is unfortunate, but we are very much a stronger company and in a better position.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things where it's just it happens in business. I don't think I think sometimes the fact that you're suspended may lead to some assumptions, but I think the reason is important, context is important, and what follows is also important. So it's
And if I cut you, you see, just to inform your listeners, your followers, that is over the last perhaps 3-4 years, the international accounting standards have changed considerably. So the reporting requirements now of companies, especially those that are listed, are onerous at times. And
yeah.
it means that for the average company, the auditors are spending more time to do the work of the average company today versus 3-4 years ago. And just think about it, there is such a significant demand now for accounting and auditing profession, it tells you the wider story. And I think we unfortunately got caught in but we are, as I said, we're in a better position now, and we're just looking forward to continue to grow the business and continue to have investors like yourselves looking at us, examining us, and giving us advice.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you just 3 more questions as we wrap up here.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to understand your mindset as an investor. So this is personal question. Now, this is no longer,
Yes.
it's not based on Atlantic. This is on Mr. Barnes, right?
Yes.
So one, what type of investor are you, and how do you think about investing?
Initially, or I would say perhaps up to 3-4 years ago, I was significantly conservative, despite, and it's an interesting thing because I've had discussions with a few of my contemporaries from school and even college. And strangely enough, what we realize is that the more educated you are, the less likely you are to take certain risks. So the persons who are, well, let me not say educated, the more lettered you are, the less likely you are to take risks. My perspective has completely changed over the last 5 years. So I'm more doing a more risky in terms of the investment that I would make today versus 5-6 years ago. So we're now in bonds personally, LRS, US stock, Jamaican stock. And that's my little portfolio that I have now. That's the extent all I can say.
Okay. I was going to ask you to give me some sectors, because you said something interesting, and I agree, and I do notice it as well, that sometimes a certain person, based on level of education, lettered, as you said, are kind of risk averse, because I coach clients, so I understand exactly what you mean. Tell me now though, how do you select an investment, right? Let's say we're talking about your local stock portfolio. Don't give me any specific names, but
Right.
what would make you take the step of making an investment? What are you looking for? Are you looking at management? Are you looking at the company itself? Like what? Give me that
So it's a
process.
combination. So it's a combination of factors. So firstly, well, not firstly, in no specific order. I look on the board of directors. I look on the management. And then, can I trust the management? Can I trust the board of directors? Okay, fine. All right. So once I clear that hurdle, then I start looking at the numbers. Is this a growth business? Where do I see this in 3 to 5 years? And then, based on the numbers, growth possibilities, the management team to include the board of directors, I say, okay, fine. This company makes sense. So if you ask me if I'm one of those who look at P ratios and XYZ, no. I look at the company, I look at the growth potential, the potential for profit, how profitable I anticipate, what's the management team like, what's the board of directors like, how long this company has been around. Do I expect this company to be around in 5-10 years' time? Is this company part of a group? What group is this company part of? How successful the group has been? So there are myriad issues that I put in one pot, and then based on that, I decide the extent of my investment.
All right. And my last question is, I'm going to ask you about your US portfolio, right? What's one stock in your US portfolio that you're expecting to go maybe 10x in the next 5 years, and why? Why is it in your portfolio?
I really have one stock at this time, and I'm still in the money. I'm still biting my apple.
Okay. I get you. Okay, interesting. So there was a question that snuck in. Levine, if it's okay, I'll send it to Mr. Barnes and he'll just give me the answer because we do have to wrap up the stream. But thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
It was a pleasure having this conversation. We do have more to talk about, but we'll give you some time. You'll probably see us at the AGM as well for some of those questions from our community. Is there anything that you want to leave investors with before we close out?
Yeah, man. Well, firstly, I want to thank your investing community for listening in. We are very clear that we want to tell the market what is happening with Atlantic. We're very clear that we want to communicate our growth strategy. We're very clear that the trajectory that we're on, that we believe that we'll continue to grow. I mean, even when the construction industry recorded decline the last 2 years, we would have grown revenues by 12% 12% for the 2 years. So it shows that we're doing something right. We're very positive that the team that we have put together are able to manipulate the issues and deal with all the issues that we are confronted with in the general marketplace. We're concerned of the macroeconomic environment, and we use the information that is available to us to try and make strategic decisions. We are always looking for possibilities in terms of backward or forward integration. So I know Mr. Mark had wanted to ask about that at some point in time, but yes, we're always looking for opportunities. The idea is to continue to grow reasonably and profitably. I want to thank you. And if you're not an Atlantic investor today, I strongly advise you to invest with Atlantic. Thank you very much. And I look forward to you and your team at the shareholders meet at the AGM, whether in person or online.
All right. Thank you so much.
Does this sound like you? You bought into that IPO they told you was a good investment, and now you're down 20, 30, maybe even 40%? You try to buy the stocks they talk about in groups or on social media.
You've even taken a chance on the ones your advisor sends you via email.
But after 2 years, that IPO, that stock is still down.
there's a clear difference between investing and making a good investment decision. So if you're stuck, what you need to do is learn how to invest the right way.
In our Learn Level 2 program, we teach you how to build a $1 million investment portfolio. To make money investing, you need to know which stocks are right for your investment strategy, know when is the right time to buy and sell, and know how to build the right portfolio for your investment style. This program will help you invest meaningfully while making money. When you sign up, you'll get monthly guidance on how to invest and make money while doing it. You'll have a community of investors on the same journey as you to support you, and you'll have resources to help you stay on track. Join our 2026 cohort so you can get back on track with your financial goals.